folks. Welcome to January 2024 Amherst Planning Board. One quick announcement ahead of time. There are two separate items that have been asked to be postponed. And that would be number one, which is 2495 Worley Drive. There's been a request to postpone that, so we're not going to have any hearing on that. And also number three, which is 6020 North Bailey Avenue, the request to rezone. That's been asked to be adjourned as well, so we're not going to hear any testimony on that. Just so you know, we don't want you, if that's why you're here, we don't want you waiting around just for that. All right. Let's go over some ground rules and facts about the planning board. The members of the planning board are volunteers appointed by the town board. We make final decisions on site plans and subdivisions. We are advisory only on rezoning and comprehensive plan amendments. We make recommendations one way or another to the town board. We have the ultimate say in that. The town board are elected officials and they receive recommendations from the planning board and they make the final decisions on those types of things. Some procedures for the public hearings. The petitioner is going to present to the board first on each agenda item. The board will ask questions and converse with the petitioners. The chair is then going to ask if anyone from the public has any comments or questions on the agenda item before them, okay? Any public comments you have to be directed to us rather than directed to the petitioner. The planning board will ask the petitioners to address any questions or comments from the public. If you need a laser pointer, there is one tied up to the podium over there. Time limits. The petitioner has 15 minutes. The comment by the neighborhood or resident spokesperson, who we basically define as the first person to speak on behalf of the public, also gets 15 minutes. So if you are the resident spokesperson, I would advise you to get first in line. Any individual speakers after that are welcome, but they're limited to 3 minutes. All right, let's start off with let's start with 5226, 5228 Main Street. The petitioner is 5226. We'll do the adjournment at the end. We'll take the motion at the end with the rest of the motions. Honest, there's no testimony though. 5226 Main Street LLC. Mr. Hopkins.
Yes. Good evening, Chairman and members of the Planning Board. Sean Hopkins on behalf of the applicant, 5226 Main Street LLC. Also with me is Pat Sheedy, the project engineer from Carmina Wood Design. I would note, based on some discussions we had with Planning Department staff today, we are not asking for a decision this evening because this does need to go in front of the DAB next week. However, we're hoping you could be in a position to close the public hearing based on the presentation. We're here this evening in connection with the proposed mixed-use project for the two contiguous parcels at 5226 and 5228 Main Street, perhaps most commonly known as George's Market. You can see on, I never know which one. Here, just to acclimate everyone, Tops Plaza, Wendy's directly to the east, the Key Bank, and then there's a medical office building located here. Obviously a short distance to the east of the intersection of North Forest and Main Street. Next slide. And there is an aerial photograph of those two contiguous parcels. It is important to note the parcel doesn't have a lot of frontage, but does constitute 1.1 acres in size. The two parcels would be merged. And generally speaking, the predominant land use in that immediate vicinity, of course, is commercial. And perhaps the most predominant use is the Tops Plaza directly to the north and to the northeast. Next slide. I think I'll skip this one and come to my slide on that, Tom. So this is a color version of the site plan, Main Street being on the left. What we're proposing here is a 4-story mixed-use building, first floor retail space, 30 apartments on the upper floors. It is important to note that we are providing an emergency access easement to North Forest Road. That's based on conversations we had with Krista Halt, the town's senior fire inspector, dating back about a year. Next slide. These are elevations. These elevations have been presented already to the DAB as part of the two-step process. We had a preliminary review. We made some minor changes based on the input received during their meeting on December 13th. And again, we'll be presenting this to them again during their meeting next Thursday evening. We're quite confident they'll be in a position to recommend approval by this board. Next slide. Aerial photograph showing the site again. I do want to compare this also. So obviously one of the projects that did involve some controversy that I wasn't involved with was the mixed-use building located across the street on the corner of South Forest in Maine. Just by way of comparison, that's a 6-story building versus this a 4-story building. And the footprint and floor area ratio of that particular building is much, much larger than this building. Another great benefit of this project versus that one is this does require architectural approval. Primarily what I've heard about that particular building is some concerns about the material, the use of EFS. None of that is allowed in the town's mixed-use districts. And this site was rezoned to TI4 by the town board during the September meeting of last year. Next slide. So this site was historically zoned GB. On September 5th, the town board rezoned it to TI4, again, lowering actually the allowable height from 65 feet, and then also creating the need to go in front of the DAB. So we believe that was a good change. It is important to note that you actually held a public hearing on this last summer, and you recommended approval of the rezoning. Our concept plan is generally the exact same concept plan that we presented to you last summer. Next slide. I think I already talked about this. It is important to note we're providing 65 parking spaces that complies with code. I do want to note one thing here as well. So we were proposing, we thought it would be a great idea, and I believe it was the plan department staff, a cross-access easement with Benchmark. Benchmark is the owner of the adjacent Tops Plaza, and we do appreciate Mr. Howard had some direct conversations with Benchmark. Unfortunately, they sent us an email last Thursday indicating at this time they're not willing to entertain entering into a cross-access easement. With that being said, and while you won't be voting this evening, what I would suggest might be appropriate is to impose a condition requiring us to do that if and when in the future the Tops Plaza comes in for an approval. Because basically what will occur is at some point there will be some form of redevelopment on that Tops Plaza. And so if you have that condition on this site, 5226 and 5228 Main Street, at that point in time, you'll be able to force that connection. They did say they'd be willing to entertain a pedestrian connection, which we also think would be a good idea. Those discussions will be ongoing, but if we can provide that, we will. Next slide. I think I talked about the review process. It is important to note that we did go to the Zoning Board of Appeals during its meeting on December 19th. It granted some variances. I've talked about the Design Advisory Board meeting. That was actually December 12th, not December 22nd. And we did most recently make an updated site plan and DAB submission on January 5th. And then finally, we did receive a comment letter from the planning department today that was dated January 11th, and Pat has prepared a letter responding to that as well. So we think we've addressed all the concerns. I know during the work session there was reference to the fact they're waiting an updated review from Krista Halt on behalf of the fire chiefs. We believe we've addressed those concerns as well. We simply need an updated memo. Pat's updated submission on January 5th contained detailed responses to the comments in her memo dated December 12th. Next slide. A copy of the landscape plan. We do comply, we believe, with the landscaping requirements of the code. The letter we received today had a couple of minor landscaping comments, which we'll address in connection with an updated submission. Next slide. Elevation plans again. Next slide. Elevation plans, and that one on the top right is looking from a location which would be to the southwest, almost across Main Street. You can see we do have a lot of storefront glass along the frontage. We think it'll be an inviting building. Next slide. We think it's quite clear this project and the rezoning that was already approved by the town board is consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan, specifically figure 6A that designated this area as appropriate for traditional areas. That was the justification for the rezoning. When we first started having meetings with the planning department and town officials 2 years ago about this project, one of the initial comments we received is rezone it to TI4. I also want to note that some of the original concept plans we presented to the planning department and other officials showed a drive-through. Everyone was vehemently opposed to that, having a drive-through as part of the first floor retail space, so we're no longer showing that. Next slide. Next slide. And finally, this does require a seeker determination. The town board already issued a negative declaration during its meeting on September 5th. Most recently, we did receive a no impact determination letter from the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. You recommended the issuance of a negative declaration on basically the same project during your meeting on June 15th of last year. So we think it's quite clear it would be appropriate to issue a negative declaration next month in connection with this project. In summary, we think we've addressed all the comments that have come up. This is, I believe, our 5th public hearing. And if there's any questions, either myself or Pat would more than welcome the opportunity to address them. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Davis, any questions? Brittany?
I thought we talked initially when you were looking to rezone about pedestrian access to the Tops area.
We did.
So is that a conversation with vendors? It sounds like the motor vehicle access isn't going to happen, but what about minimally?
Yeah, so pedestrian, do you want to go back, Tom, to one of the site plans? First and foremost, we were hopeful that Benchmark would allow the driveway connection, and it took several months, but their at least initial response is no. But yeah, we certainly would entertain pedestrian access. The email that Tom Fox from Ellicott received from Benchmark said they would entertain that. So we don't have a decision yet on that, but if we can provide it, we will. We think it would be,
Entertain pedestrian?
yes. No driveway, but they would entertain pedestrian.
Has the applicant proposed some financial incentives so that that access could be provided?
No. And I don't think we should need to. I mean, again, to connect a sidewalk to bring customers to their plaza, I think that's a win-win.
I have no questions. Harbiner?
I think in the write-up that we have in the book, it said that we're going to have vehicular access to the Tops.
Right, so we
right.
were proposing it, but again, we just got a response back last
what would
Thursday
be-
from Benchmark saying they're not going to allow that.
So what would be the ingress mostly for the residential
It
people,
would be
right?
entirely off Main Street, which is, of course, a state highway. As I indicated, we also have an emergency access only
Right.
out to North Forest, but that's literally because we need that per the New York State Fire Code.
Quite a path there for the people who are parking there. It's, well, that's the way it is, and you're still going to hope for, get an
And
agreement with
again, I
Tops.
think if the conditions worded correctly, I mean, I'm 100% confident at some point, the owner of the Tops Plaza is going to come in for some type of approval from the town. And at that point, I defer to Plan Department staff, you would have legal authority to require that cross-access connection to be provided, which we're showing on our plans.
Okay. Yep, thank you, son.
You're welcome.
Joe?
No questions. Everything's been answered. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, does anybody from the public have anything to ask or comment upon regarding this item? Nothing? I will close the hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to number 4, item number 4. Request rezone 1.03 acres of land from R3 to NB. This is at 1635 North French Road.
Good evening, Planning Board. Ari Goldberg for the law firm Barclay Damon. Petitioner Torrey and TJ Hirsch are both with me tonight. They're the owners of 1635 North French. So tonight we are seeking your recommendation on a rezoning of 1635 North French from its existing R3 classification to NB, neighborhood business. For almost all of you except Mr. Davis, this may be a bit of deja vu. We came before you in August of last year seeking your recommendation on a comprehensive plan amendment. Next slide, please. So petitioners own 2 properties on North French, 1635, the property before you, and 1639, 1641 North French. 1635 is zoned R3, and then 1639, 1641 is zoned CF, Community Facilities. The comprehensive plan amendment that was recommended for approval by this board and then later approved by the town board, it amended the comp plan so that both of these properties would be classified on Figure 6 as commercial mixed use. So now the comprehensive plan subsequently supports this rezoning request. Currently at 1641 North French, it's the Greater Buffalo Gymnastics Center. There's a daycare and a dance studio. So these are all children, neighborhood-focused uses that complement what's surrounding the area, including to the north, a large subdivision, the soccer complex, and the religious facilities across the road. Next slide, please, Tom. And at 1635, the petitioner is proposing a two-story mixed-use building with 6,400 square feet of commercial on the ground floor, 3,000 square feet of retail on the second floor, as well as a single residential suite on the second floor. We want to target, it's going to look very similar if you're familiar with the development at Transit and Casey, similar to that in the sense of a neighborhood-focused, targeting an upscale bakery or a cafe type of eatery, more family-friendly, health-oriented uses to complement the existing character of the area, as well as what's going on at 1639, 1641 North French. To further tie the properties together, as you can see on the site plan that's here, also proposing interconnection between the two properties and maintenance of the existing two curb cuts that are shown. What we're proposing on the site plan is maintenance of one existing curb cut and removal of the second curb cut. And you can see that proposed connection again. This proposal does constitute a mixed-use development, which is not expressly permitted at 1635 North French. That's what brings us before you for the rezoning request, which is now supported by the comprehensive plan. So that's really it for this presentation. You are just a recommending body at this point. Subsequent to, if the town board sees fit to approve the rezoning, we will eventually be back here for a site plan approval. Tori, TJ, and I are all here to answer any questions of the board and the public. Thank you.
Thank you. John, any questions?
No questions.
Brittany?
The second floor, it's just one residential unit?
That's right.
Is it gonna be like owner occupied, or is it a rental?
Property manager suite.
Property manager suite.
I have no questions. Harbinger?
No questions.
No questions.
Thank you.
Anybody from the public have any questions or comments on item number four? Nobody? I'll close the hearing.
Mr. Davis, welcome.
Thank you. Okay, now we are on item number 5, request to amend the bicentennial comprehensive plan. We are at 46, 54, 60, 68, 74, and 84 South Linden Street. And this is again advisory as a recommendation of the town board. Mr. Palumbo.
Good evening, board members. I'm Jeff Palumbo. I represent the petitioner in connection with the proposed rezoning. I'm here with Mr. Militello, who is the property owner. Just before we get into too much detail on the slides, the property was acquired, as you all may be aware, by Mr. Militello from the town of Amherst. The South Linden was a paper street that had been abandoned by the town, and Mr. Militello purchased that property. He owned the adjoining property to the roadway itself. So what we're here for, as you indicated, is a request today for you to make a recommendation to the town board to amend the comprehensive plan from its current single-family residential district to mixed residential. Next slide. You all may be familiar with the property. You're located South Linden Street off of Worley. The property on the north side of Worley is about 375 feet east of South Harvest and is currently zoned R3 with a small portion in front being zoned R4. Next, just another picture showing the area itself and the location of the property. You can go to the next slide, please. So as you indicated, there's a number of single-family lots with different addresses on South Linden. And you can see from the property how they're divided currently. The property itself measures just under 2.5 acres in size with 50 feet of frontage on Worley. And you can see on the map, immediately adjacent to the north is the 190. And to the south, we have single-family residential. To the east is the Lamb Post, and to the west is also single-family residential. So project description, the purpose of this, as you all well know, is this is the first step in a long process. Today, we're asking for an amendment to the comprehensive plan that would change the designation from single-family to mixed residential. If the town board, with your recommendation, decides to amend the comprehensive plan, then we would move forward with a rezoning application. If that were approved, then ultimately we would have site plan to deal with back to this board for approval. So the mixed residential land designation, as you can see on the slide, is meant for a variety of residential housing types that allows more density than the existing zoning of single-family residential. What we would like to do is, we can go to the next slide. Well, let's stay on this one for just a moment, if you don't mind. You can see from the map itself, it's colored in the light color, which is the residential, single-family residential. The dark yellow is the mixed residential. So you can see from this map itself that we are not doing something that is foreign to this area. There is mixed residential uses, there is multifamily zoning up and down the street and in the immediate vicinity of the project. And we'll go into a little more detail about that. Next. So this is the layout, and this is a little different than the original plan that I think was submitted with the application. We have essentially flip-flopped the buildings so that the buildings do not appear adjacent to the existing homes on South Harvest. We now have a green area there with the buffer and the retention pond, and we have relocated all of the facilities, including the garages, as far away from the properties as we could. So that's a substantial change from what was originally contemplated on the property. Next. So this is what we're looking to do. These are townhouse units, and there's two buildings that are now being proposed. One would have 16 units and one would have 12. So we have 28 units, which is the same number of units that appeared on the original plan that was submitted with the comprehensive plan amendment application. These would be essentially a mixture of 2 and 3 bedroom, 2-bath townhouses. And you can see that they are designed to try to the maximum extent possible to meet the aesthetics of the neighborhood. This is something that Mr. Militello has taken great care in designing with his architect, Mr. Sutton, and we think that this goes a long way to try to fit into the character of the neighborhood. Next. These are just the garages that would go along with the townhouse units. You can keep going, Tom. All right, so the zoning map, I think, is important because one of the questions that always comes up is whether or not you are doing something that's radically different than what exists in the surrounding neighborhood. So we've tried to highlight the MFR5 areas, the multifamily areas on the map. We can see that there's nothing immediately adjacent to us, but that's not the test. The test is whether or not it's in conformity with the neighborhood and the surrounding area. And I think if you keep going, we'll go into a little more detail. The multifamily districts, again, near South Linden, you can see are highlighted and etched in the red. So if you go into a little more detail in the surrounding area, you see that there are a variety of multifamily houses ranging from duplexes to fourplexes to units in excess of 4 individual units. Next. And this is some more in the immediate area. So I think this is really the most important part of the whole application. Do we fit the character of the neighborhood? Are we immediately next to single family? Yes. But that should not disqualify us right out of the box because it's not the exact same housing. The question is what the impacts are from the proposal and how that affects the neighbors. And what we would suggest to you that with retaining a buffer of 54 feet that we have back there with the green area, which would be significant as opposed to single-family developments that will clear the entire area. Next. So these are just some more pictures of Worley and Cayuga, the surrounding area with the MFR 5 zonings. Next. So in summary, if we saw our application, we went into detail of how we believe that this proposal meets the intent of the comprehensive plan's vision. And if you talk about the vision statement, you talk about the diversity of housing, providing diversity of housing. And we believe we're doing that. We're giving another option other than single-family homes to those who don't want to be in single-family homes anymore and would rather have the upkeep managed by a management company rather than themselves. We believe that it's a revitalization of the neighborhood, injecting some new development, some new buildings into the area, and certainly it strengthens the town's tax base as opposed to vacant land next to on a paper street. In terms of the key initiatives, again, the vision statement and the comprehensive plan talk about providing diversity of housing in first-class communities, and we believe that we're doing that with this proposal. It's a perfect area for empty nesters and young professionals, and the comprehensive plan is replete with discussion about providing that type of housing. In terms of land use and development, we believe that this is consistent with the development of the Worley corridor and the surrounding area. This will be a low-traffic generator with 28 units and no stress on the existing utility infrastructure. I know that there was one letter that was provided to us in comments on those from one of the neighbors with respect to the proposal, and most of the items that were in that list had to do with site plan issues. There was a discussion about losing the buffer. Well, you know, this is buffer now because the property is there adjacent to people's backyard, but one way or another, this property will be developed. So we're not really losing a buffer, and we're providing a buffer with the development itself. In terms of, there was questions about the lights, and those types of things are all site plan issues, but suffice it to say that there will be no light spillage over onto adjacent properties. They'll be dark sky compliant, they'll be hooded. Drainage issues, those will all be addressed during the site plan process, but as you all know, this engineering department would have to sign off on any engineering plan, any drainage plan for the property. Traffic, again, as I indicated, it's a very low traffic producer, you know, talking about 28 units total. So with that, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions. And again, Mr. Militello is here if you have any specific questions for John.
John, any questions?
No questions.
Brittany?
So, the parcel in question, if we liken it to the neighboring single-family residences, it would equate to about 6 lots.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so in place of 6 single-family, your applicant is suggesting an infill of 28 residences, in essence, correct?
Yep. Yes.
So I'm wondering if you can give me an example, because I think you're trying to point out that although the abutting community, obviously he recognizes all single-family, which I counted, it's about 200 houses surrounding it, are all single-family homes mostly. Tell me where the next, I guess, parcel that you would liken it to that's going to have 28, because the ones that you displayed to us, I think, are like 2, 3, 4 family homes.
Right. The question in my mind is not the number of units, it's the use of the property and the.
Fitting character with the neighborhood, right? And you're telling me, well, don't just look at the neighborhood being those parcels that are like directly next to it. Bring this broad view, and there's certainly multifamily, you know, parcels, but those multifamily parcels are not near as congested as what you're proposing, from what I can see. But if I'm wrong, I want you to tell me.
No, you're not wrong. There are probably no townhouse units exactly like this one with this number of units in the immediate vicinity. Pardon me?
How does it fit the community? How does it fit the neighborhood then?
Because when you talk about fitting into the community, what are you talking about? Are you talking about the type of housing?
I'm talking about the density. You're telling
Yeah.
me you want to put 28 units where otherwise the other single-family residences would maybe have an expectation of 6. Now, I'm understanding, obviously, for growth and development in the community, certainly. I'm just not sure this is in characteristic of the community.
Right, and what I'm saying is, the difference between 6 units and 28 units is what? Is in terms of traffic in terms of drainage, in terms of green space, in terms of what? Other than the fact that there's 28 units, which you've pointed out several times, what's the impact of the difference between 6 and 28? I would suggest to you that there's none.
I think 28 households is different than 6 households.
Well, it is different, but it's different how? Again, in what impact is 28 units having over 6 units? That's the question.
Yeah. Just my opinion, that's all the question I had.
Yeah.
Well, I guess my question would be this, is, you know, if we take this step with this relatively small slice of land that's on Worley Drive, you know, what happens in the future if there's further development around it? For example, the Lamb property, the American Legion, or whatever it is, which is a gigantic property. Now, all of a sudden, they come in there asking for the same thing as you, you know, a rezoning over to, you know, it's higher density housing. How do we answer that question, I guess? Because the difference between, as you said, between 28 and maybe 6 houses, but if you apply it to that much larger property next door, that's a huge difference.
Sure, that's an excellent question, and the answer really is twofold. Number one is, you're not bound by precedent. You're bound to make a decision on each individual project on its specific facts. So if somebody comes in next to us, they're going to be coming in with far more than 28 units. So you would have to differentiate that from this proposal and determine the impacts of that. That's number one. Number two is, that is likely to go some other way other than single family or other than a Lamb Post, certainly sometime in the future, whether we do this project or not. So I don't think that we will be an impetus for them, not by doing 28 units. They're going to do something on that property. They've had multiple offers already. So something is going to happen on that property sooner or later, regardless of what we do.
Yeah, but other than R3, they'd have to apply for, you know, a different zoning for that property.
Yeah, and they're adjacent to, in the immediate vicinity of an off-track bedding. So is that a good place to put single-family next to the, in that immediate location of an off-track bedding? I wouldn't think so, but I don't know, we'll see.
That's all I had. Harbinger.
There seemed to be quite a bit of difference between what we have here in the book and what you showed us. Could you show us the slide of the plan again, please? So now, okay. So what we have here shows 4 buildings. Oh, perhaps 7 each. Now you have, turn them around.
16 units, 12 units, and those are the garages. Originally, these were moved way back here.
Right.
So we moved them as far away as we could and still have a development.
But you're maintaining the same density, 28 units in that.
Correct.
There was another slide you had in which you saw different colors, but the color scheme wasn't very evident. I think you were trying to show multiple family units or something on that slide.
The pictures?
No, it was also a plan, but it had different colored.
Oh, I think we're talking about concept
Yeah,
6?
right,
Yeah.
right.
You want to go back to that slide?
Please.
Yeah, Tom. This one.
No, the one, keep going, it came after this.
Our slide.
It had reds and blues and greens and.
No, that's not what he's talking about.
Jeff's
He's talking.
zoning map excerpt. Jeff's slide.
I think my question there was if there was anything similar to what you were proposing here, but I think Brittany's question has actually answered that. So, no, thank you. So,
Joe?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. Do we have anybody from the public with any questions or concerns? If so, come on up.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Steve Martin. I'm actually a resident, 74 South Harvest. I'm here with a couple of my neighbors also. I did submit a document on November with several concerns. One of these is my interpretation of the bicentennial plan when I was reading through it. It does ask for non-vehicle commuter things, ways to impact greater residents in a smaller capacity to make better use of the space. I'm not sure that this is a great position for that, having resided there for 13 years now. Part of it is, in your words, the character of the neighborhood. Our neighborhood is made up of essentially ranches and split ranches, mostly brick in the 50s. A couple of 80s houses, I suppose, were built. The surrounding area with the wooded areas, what they will be knocking down to put this in. We already have a throughway wall on the other side, so it would look quite stark, in my opinion. One of the issues that I have is just throwing a blanket statement that there will be no traffic issues whatsoever. I'm curious to how we arrived at that term. McIntyre is the street that runs in the back, which was, I'm under the impression, proposed to be the second driveway, as would be Worley. We have no sidewalks. We have well over 8 children between the 2 blocks, 4 on just our street alone. There are no sidewalks. People walk dogs every single day. And to your point, taking what probably has 30 residents and vehicles and adding 56 and using that instantly overnight, I don't know if that's well thought out or looked through. I just want to make sure that these are heard and listened. So as far as the character goes, I'm not sure. I feel like waking up every day and looking at a 2-story building that's quite high, that's brand new, much like some other ones that have gone up. And I don't really want to speak much else. I guess if you guys have seen this and you've read it, I think it speaks to itself. And that's about what I got. So thank you for listening.
Thanks, sir. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Tim Boyle. I own 2 homes on South Autumn, which is 1 street over.
We have the address, sir.
46 and 54 South Autumn.
Thank you.
I was just listening to the conversation about like properties in the area, and both my properties back up to those Union Square condominiums, which there's probably 40 of them back there. And my backyard is adjacent to their backyard. And so I actually like the project because I think it takes a really underutilized section of what I'm going to call the other side of the thruway with the thruway wall. It's bordered by everything from off-track bedding to Dollar General to multiple family homes. It backs up to, there's a bit of a hodgepodge of 2-story garage apartments, off-track bedding, Worley Drive. I think it's, from what I can see from the renderings, it looks like high-end, diverse housing, which is exactly what I think it's a step up from the Union Square that I back up to. Both of my properties are rental properties. I've invested a lot of money into them. That's been a very, there's a lot of distressed properties over there. I think this would be a great enhancement to the neighborhood myself, and I think it would, I think it fits the character rather well.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Come on. If there's anybody else who wants to speak after her, I encourage you to line up.
Hi,
Good evening.
I'm Kathy Oliveri, and I live at 73 South Harvest, so I'm right behind the property that they want to put up. Yes, it looks really pretty, but he said 28 properties that they'd be having, 2 to 3 bedrooms. Well, you take 28 times by 2, that's 56. Put maybe 5 more, and you're at 61 cars. That's a lot of property. That's a lot of traffic. We now can hardly get out on Worley as it is. That's my concern. And I didn't really see how he has like a cul-de-sac coming out on it. And how are they going to maintain that extra property? Is he going to leave it woods? Is he going to put a fence up? What is his intent? And so I just wanted to reiterate, It sounds, 28 sounds good, but that's not the facts. So, those are my concerns. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Mr. Palumbo, care to respond?
Last question about access. Can we put the site plan back up, Tom? So you can see that this does tie in to both Worley and to McIntyre. So I don't know, how many people will be using the McIntyre, but it does tie in on both sides. So I think if that was the question, then that's the answer. Thank you.
Okay, I'll close the hearing. Thank you. All right, moving on to item number 6. This is the proposed zoning ordinance text amendment, creation of a new mixed-use district, Center 10. Town of Amherst is petitioner.
Good evening, members of the Planning Board. Daniel Latowski, Assistant Planning Director. This evening, I'm presenting to you a proposed text amendment to our zoning ordinance, in particular our new mixed-use provisions. Next slide, please. What we are introducing is a new center zoning district, Center 10, which would accompany our 3 existing center districts, our Center 2.5, our Center 5, and Center 8 district. The intent of introducing this new district is to afford flexibility and an opportunity for redevelopment, primarily of the Boulevard Mall site. We're trying to introduce this, and if it's adopted as a text amendment, it would have to be applied on the ground in the form of a rezoning. Again, the intent is to limit it primarily to the Boulevard Mall premises. It could also be utilized at what we call the Golden Triangle, which is at the intersection of Miller's Port and Flint Road, and possibly at Maple Ridge Plaza. The district is similar to the other 3 center districts. It's intended to create a network of continuous, high-quality, active, and walkable streets, establish a network of pedestrian connections throughout the district and to the surrounding community. Open space is an organizing feature, like in the other 3 center districts. And again, buildings will range between 2 and 10 stories. It will provide a variety of retail service and commercial uses, as well as multifamily residences and offices. Next slide, please. As I indicated, it's an additional district to accompany our Center 2.5, Center 5, and Center 8 district. In addition to this text amendment introducing the new district, we are also providing a new frontage type. Next slide, please. We are proposing, next slide, please. The frontage type will be called the boulevard frontage type, and the intent on providing this frontage type is because currently in our 3 center districts, a developer is able to utilize a frontage for an existing minor or a major arterial. That current frontage type is very flexible to the point where it lacks control on the form along the corridor. There are no maximum setbacks. What this new frontage type will be allowed to do is to provide a maximum setback of 75 feet. So particularly along Boulevard Mall, where we have both a major arterial along Niagara Falls Boulevard on the west and a major arterial on the north, Maple Road. What we're trying to do is not allow big box development with parking fields in front and allow for a different form of development as well as a greener form of development. So in addition to allowing up to 10 stories in a limited geographic area, we believe it's necessary to apply this frontage type to gain a little more control along our large arterial corridors that would apply within this Center 10 zoning. Next slide, please. In addition to the frontage type which we are providing, again, as I indicated, it would provide a maximum setback of 75 feet. We're also introducing a permitted uses both in this center district and our other mixed-use districts to allow for breweries and distilleries, primarily microbreweries. Thomas, I believe that's the last slide. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions, and then any questions from the audience.
John, any questions?
No questions.
Brittany?
Just some brief ones. Okay, in Amherst, we already have 10-story buildings, some, right?
We have, I believe, one, which is the Marriott Millersport and Flint.
And that was able to be developed without this amendment, this.
That was adopted, I believe, in the late 70s, early 80s, with relief. It's,
Same as anyone else, really, that wanted to apply and put in.
I'm sorry?
Same with any other applicant that wanted to put in a similarly structured building, right? We already have one in existence in the town,
That is correct.
so they could just apply for a variance.
Anyone's able to apply for a variance. There are 5 criteria that must be demonstrated, and that includes showing that you've exhausted alternatives. So I suppose anyone could seek a variance in height. The intent here is to, as I indicated previously, it's really to provide some flexibility and marketability of a property which the town may be owning very soon. And we believe that there is a need to provide that flexibility and to provide opportunities for individuals who may want up to 10 stories. Will 10 stories ultimately be developed on the Boulevard Mall parcel? That will yet to be seen.
And I think before, I had heard that maybe there was some downstate investors that might be interested in development of Boulevard if they were afforded this opportunity, right? But you would agree, downstate New York is much different than Amherst, right?
I don't disagree with that.
Those are the only questions I have.
I was going to ask you about the interest from the developers as well. You covered that, so I have no other questions. Thank you. Arbiter?
Similar to what has been raised already, the height of the building and the 10 stories, is there any reason why it is 10 and not 12 and not 8 or any 5? Or
That's a good question. We think there may be a need for 10 stories. At least that's what we've been advised of the downstate development community. And there's some economies of scale at that point. But certainly with respect to concerns for market, will the market demand 12? Will the market demand 10? We don't know, but we want the Boulevard Mall area to have the ability to attract investment, and we want it to be predictable. It doesn't mean that we will see 10 stories fully developed on the mall site, but we want the ability for the development community to build it should they wish to build it.
So it's the question, and the next question is about the process. What recourse will be there in the future if somebody does propose a 10-story building, but which otherwise doesn't seem to be appropriate for that location? What recourse would there be for the town board or the planning board to make a ruling on that?
Well, rezonings are legislative prerogatives, meaning the town board is the only authority that can grant a rezoning. If this text amendment is recommended for approval by this board, the town board will have a public hearing, much like this public hearing, receive any public comment or concerns. And if the town board should adopt this, it'll essentially be a floating zone. Our recommendation is that it be applied limited to the Boulevard Mall area, to the Golden Triangle, and maybe Maple Ridge Plaza. That would be the recommendation of our department. We believe that should be limited to those particular sites. But once it's adopted, a development interest could seek a rezoning. It would be up to the town board to consider that under the advisement of our office. Consistency with the neighborhood and the character of that surrounding area. We think the mall property can support up to 10 stories if the development community desires to have it. Again, we believe in the future, in our past exercises in pushing a vision for that mall with hopefully a future mass transit system. It would support the need for that type of form and density.
If this is approved and you say you want to apply it on a limited basis, but how would you limit that? I mean, wouldn't hands be tied at that point? That, look, it's already here in the plan?
It would be in the text, and we would guide the legislative body to apply it in a limited fashion based on our recommendations that it be applied where it's most appropriate. Certainly not next to residences, certainly where we can see existing buildings that have that height. If we look to Miller's Port and Flint, we have a 10-story, 11-story buildings there now, surrounded by major arterials. Buildings of 10-story are probably appropriate in that location. They're probably appropriate in the Boulevard Mall in the center of the site as well. And that's where we think those sites would support it. We would rely on the discretion of our legislative body to look to what they believe is good for our community, as well as the surrounding area.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Joe, any questions?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody from the public that wishes to comment or ask questions? If so, come on up to the podium. Hearing nobody, I will close the hearing. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 7, proposed zoning code text amendment, creating an urban renewal area overlay district. This is advisory, a recommendation of the town board. Petitioner is the town of Amherst, Mr. Palowie.
Good evening, planning board members. My name is Marty Palowie. I'm the town attorney. As you said, this is a request for recommendation on this local law, which creates an urban renewal overlay district, specifically on the current Boulevard Mall parcel. Can you switch to that side? Thank you. So the overlay district is applicable to what is now the 10 parcels that make up the Boulevard Mall site. The current zoning is Center 8, Center 5, Center 2.5, and as Mr. Ulatowski just presented on, a proposed Center 10. As a text amendment, which is this overlay, it won't impact the underlying zoning. Those restrictions will still be in place. Next slide. Thank you. The existing uses that are there is the Boulevard Mall, Penny's, the former Macy's men's store, parking lots, Firestone, a car center, M&T Bank, the former VAC, Gabe's, former Michael's Bye Bye building, Bye Bye Baby, and a National Grid substation with a utility corridor. The development size is approximately 69 acres. The frontages are listed there. The neighboring uses to the north are commercial, to the south is commercial, to the west is commercial, to the east is mostly commercial with a little bit of multifamily in that lower right-hand section beneath where that notch is cut out. By way of background, the Boulevard Central District has been in front of this, has been a topic that has been in front of your board a few times in the past. In 2020, the town board adopted the district focal planning area as part of the comp plan to incorporate walkable, mixed-use, transit-oriented development into an aging, underutilized commercial area. The district builds upon mixed-use form-based zoning districts, which were adopted in 2019, and that encourages the retrofit of the district's commercial uses. As you're also aware, in 2020, the town board established the the urban renewal area, creating the Amherst Urban Renewal Agency, also known as ORA. The town board itself serves as ORA, so it's not it's a town board agency. And also in 2022, in June, the Boulevard Mall Urban Renewal Plan was adopted. The plan outlines methods proactively to address blighted conditions and further implement the vision of the district. And the plan specifically calls for the town board to consider adopting specialized provisions in the urban renewal area that will allow for flexibility in the review and approval of specific development projects. The town is proposing to create this urban renewal overlay district. I'll just refer to it as overlay district because I don't know if you can actually pronounce URAD. So the overlay district is the goal is to promote flexibility in the review and approval process for the redevelopment of the parcels within that district as outlined in the urban renewal plan. The overlay district is an overlay zoning district, and again, doesn't disturb the substantive requirements of the underlying base zoning districts. Rather, the overlay district establishes additional standards, criteria to promote specific development projects and constitute exclusive procedural requirements and authorizations for development within that overlay district. As I said earlier, the overlay district will apply to those 10 parcels, which the town, as you're aware, is in the middle of an eminent domain proceeding to acquire. The overlay district project review is done in place of the current site plan review process carried out by the town by streamlining and removing uncertainty in the project at the forefront when projects are certified by ORA, again, certified by the town board, to be in compliance with that urban renewal plan that was adopted in 2022. So the overlay district law provides general deviations from our traditional major site plan, and these are a list of them. A pre-submittal meeting is required with the proposer to sit down with the planning department to go over the specifics of the urban renewal plan and in determining the approval of an application, the planning board may consider such other matters as established within the urban renewal plan or the comprehensive plan. ORA certified plans, again, town board certified projects, will limit the town planning board's authority to adjust the number of proposed buildings and other elements deemed essential by ORA and is approved by the town board. So that would be part of that certification. Coordinated review will happen on the front end. It'll be initiated by the planning department and occur prior to placement on your agenda. There will be no re-referrals by the planning board to outside agencies. Planning board will have the authority to consider waivers or deviations from the base zoning districts, so you'll have that additional authority. Public hearings at this board won't be held. They will be held at the town board level. Notice and publication and other requirements set forth in other laws or regulations of the town will not be applicable to those applications within the overlay district. And with that, I seek your positive recommendation to the town board in support of this local law. I'm here to answer any questions should you have them.
John, any questions?
No questions.
Brittany?
So as I understand it, it's obviously like a PUD proposal, right?
Mhm.
And you're asking us as the planning board to vote to forego those rights that were really otherwise delegated to the planning board, at least in part, as proposal, right?
To forego, I mean, not to forego them completely, so it's limited, so that there's not a kickback and forth to the town board and to outside agencies and things like that. As you know, the board's powers are all derived from the town board, and state law allows for these types of overlay districts.
No questions for me. Harbinger?
It seems that the town board doesn't really, they can act anyway, right? We just have a recommendation, so they can do what they want.
On the law? On this law,
Yeah.
it's a recommendation. I think it's important to note that the town board does want the planning board involved in the process, which is why
It seems to me that this is intended to appear as if the planning board will have something to say.
We do still
And
have
really,
something to
it
say.
won't be anything
You can put on
substantial.
ordinary conditions.
Well, it doesn't seem very substantial when so much is taken away. And since the town board can do it anyway, I feel it's more disingenuous to say that we are going to involve you when you really don't have to.
Yeah, I don't think it's disingenuous. The town board could have created the overlay district without any involvement of the planning board.
So now you want us to be party to this particular petition, okay? when it's not necessary. So it gives us the appearance that we are willingly foregoing some of our responsibility, and whereas really we don't have a choice. It just, to me, it seemed that we're being given a perfunctory role in the future for these projects, and will not have any substantial say in it.
Yeah, I guess this is a first of its kind project in the town, and the process that the town has been going through at the town departmental levels with the town board, the urban renewal plan, all of that has set the stage for this major redevelopment of 69 acres, which is the prerogative of the town board. The town board, again, it's not, your role is not eliminated. The role is, it'll still come here, and the town board relies on your expertise for those opinions and for those qualifications. It just changes the order of certain things.
I think we understand each other. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Joe, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Does anybody in the public have any comments, concerns, or questions they'd like to address? Yep. Sure, come on down.
My name is Jerry DeCosmo, and I live on Meyer Road,
What's your exact address, ma'am?
378 Meyer Road.
Thank you.
I want to condone you, both of you, for saying what's going on. I mean, you pretty much, they've taken you out of the role, out of the equation. Not really, only a little bit. You still have a role, and now we have no role in discussing this with you. I looked over the agenda today, and the first thing that stood out to me was no public hearing by the planning board. You guys make a recommendation, you're like the first line that we go to if we have an issue about things that are recommended. And now, yeah, we can go to the town board, but if we were to come to you and you had a concern, you would voice that concern to the town board. I think that what is streamlining the process, that seems to me to be just like, we're gonna skip over all you other people because we know what's better. And I'm sorry, unfortunately, what's going on in this town is nothing but secrecy. There is no transparency in this town. I don't wanna get into the tax increase, but we all know what's going on there. I'm very concerned about this. I want to know, besides the streamlining of it, who benefits from this? Certainly not the people. And who pays for it? The people. So I really think you should consider, I'm sorry, I would consider it if it were my home and I were coming up with what's probably going to be a very costly situation. My children wouldn't be brought into this, into a decision about something that is going to be a costly situation, and we're being treated, and you're being treated like the children of the town. You are not being given a voice, just like we are. Oh my gosh, I was aghast when I read no public hearing to the planning board. Again, secrecy breeds corruption. I'm sorry. I don't think that this should go through, at least not to the extreme that's being presented. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else with any concerns or comments? If there's anybody else, I'd encourage you to get in line behind this gentleman. Good evening.
Joe Wojtowicz, 35B Cyrus. I just found out about the agenda of the planning board meeting tonight about 5 o'clock, and I was just aghast at the two different subjects they're going to be approaching here for the Boulevard Mall. It seemed right from the beginning, the premise that they were going to use eminent domain to take the property away from some of the mall property owners. I was really leery at that at first. And then I started hearing rumors that Douglas Jamal was going to walk away from the property after that point. That was just reinforced here tonight when they said the town was going to put out RFPs to try to find a developer to take this over. What happens if they don't find a developer? Town is going to be on the hook for $50 million, $80 million for all the development for redoing the land, and it's going to sit there vacant again. I think it's really getting risky on what the town is trying to do with a premise that's supposed to be taking land for public purpose. This is not public purpose, it's for private development. The town should step away from that. We have too much to risk on this, and we really shouldn't be putting ourselves in that position. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Mr. Pelot, would you care to respond to the two individuals?
I don't have much to say. I mean, this is creating a brand new neighborhood on 69 acres of land. So that's the process for this. It's mixed use. It's going to involve a park. It's going to be an asset to the town if and when it gets developed. That's all I have to say right now.
The gentleman brings up a good point. He's concerned, rightfully, that this is risky for the town of Amherst. Is it your position that this process, which is obviously to streamline the process, may make it more attractive to developers to reduce what he fears?
That's certainly the goal here, is to have an RFP process where proposals are evaluated and selected developers are given assurances at the front end as far as the number of buildings and what the town board would deem essential. So none of this happens unless there's actually a development approved by the town board.
Okay.
And the ultimate goal is for the town to recoup every penny that has gone into the eminent domain process. But that's irrespective of this local law.
All right. All right. Close the hearing on 7. And that is the last public hearing, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, do we want to go right into voting, or do we want to break? Break the vote? All right. By the way, I have a small break. We'll get started. 5 minutes? Yeah. Take a 5-minute break, folks. Fresh mind.
This one right here. No behavior to the property to the east.
You guys want this, Sean's. I'll ask them to have some discussion.
I think that
This was only the second one. First was fine. It was a favor. All right. Good. What's that? I couldn't remember if we do it before the vote or at the very beginning. I blanked. Yeah, so I'm the first thing I do when he comes back. I'm gonna forget a lot of things. Yeah, I was
Just a reminder, Mike, again.
Wait a minute, should I be doing a roll? I couldn't remember whether we did it at the outset, like when I'm reading the rules, or if we do it before the vote.
No.
But from now on, we'll
It's
do
his
it at
first
the
day,
outset.
okay?
I know, I got it, I
We have
got
to
it.
be easy on him.
First thing.
Aha.
Roll call.
There
These
we
are
go.
the minutes, but yeah.
But yeah,
Whatever,
last.
Whatever.
Someone's gonna entertain a vote for my ouster. Get him out of here.
I'll move to amend the agenda and
Unforgivable.
add-
My God, we're hearing questions from people who are not even identified here. Who are these gentlemen and women?
So, now they like to use that one more.
You know what? It wasn't my script,
He
but
did
yeah.
a medical fire, remember?
Yeah,
He did that, and
He
you
used
did
to do
not
that.
do that.
rolling the dice. Rolling the dice.
Who found you fit anyways?
This is becoming a disaster.
I'm concerned, because it has been at least 2 months, and what if the fire breaks out? I'm not gonna know where.
I sent it.
And I'll tell you this, I'm just gonna start running. I'm not.
You would, you would.
I'm gonna lower the shoulder on a few of you.
John's new, John doesn't even know.
I'll help John. The rest of you should know where the exits are by now.
Just so you know, our last chairman, with 24 on top of it, had attendance first, and she
Where the exits are.
and this new guy doesn't even know.
Yeah. Every man and woman for himself in the case of a fire or flood.
He could care less about
Next time, safety is goal number 1. And attendance.
absolutely.
I'm not sure.
It's gotta be in residential
Twice.
Not
Oh,
usually, Mike, not usually.
Many times. Yeah. I mean,
It's
the
his,
recommendation.
yes, Scott.
amendments.
I got the other condition.
Yeah. But some of the other ones, you know, I'm still thinking on some.
But you're not bound by it.
We're dirty.
Yeah, yeah, there's. Yeah, so I always like.
Well, I'll put it in there.
Okay.
What if some?
Actually have them, one they give it to us, they actually create the file it, so it runs with the land.
Talking hypothetically.
North Forest?
No,
6.
tops.
Centerton.
That way when Elegant Development sells it to Bubba Lacqua still got it. I just don't want an agreement with you. I want a file.
We
I
recommend.
don't know what you're talking about.
Main Street thing.
Oh, the pedestrian
No.
way.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm totally for the retrofitting and all that. You know my issue.
This whole thing in here,
No, it doesn't matter.
a vehicular easement area.
How does that force?
Tops them in, never does anything. I could tell them to connect there, and they have to give it to me.
But you can do that without this being an easement.
Oh, this guy owns it right now can say, yeah, I'll give it to you. He sells it. Good luck.
Oh,
Next guy.
okay, okay.
Good luck. I would make this whole freaking thing an easement. Shoot for access to this plaza.
Right, but then people are gonna come back at planning board.
That way if Tops come in and never does anything, I can make Tops build it.
But if it's an easement on this property,
They
doesn't
have to-
matter who's managing it, who owns it or manages it in the future.
That's right.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I put that on it. Yeah, no promises. Then they sell the freaking thing. I'm done with that bullshit. That's no fun.
So heads up, that's fine.
Okay.
Where's who?
They never did roll.
No, but I
That's what
took
was
it.
trying to tell you. They never did roll.
We never do.
This shit, Amy just.
Okay.
It'd be nice if they identified themselves to the public.
In the beginning.
There are names up there.
Ready to roll?
Yeah, but Dan's gonna be.
All right, let's get to the votes, but first, We neglected to take roll call. Can we take roll call?
Shamil?
Here.
Davis? Here. Gill?
Here.
Giuliani? Penberthy? Here. Raphael?
Here.
Okay. Got it done. All right. Item number 1, site plan review, 2495 Worley Drive. We have a request to adjourn this to next month. Do we need to do separate votes on seeker and on it, just one? Okay.
Just on the adjournment of the hearing.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I move to adjourn.
Brittany moves. Do I have a second? Barb? Roll call?
Shamil?
Yes.
Davis? Yes. Gill?
Yes.
Penberthy? Yes. Raphael?
Yes.
Okay, item number 2, 5226 and 5228 Main Street. We held the hearing. There's actually been a request from petitioner to postpone to next month, I believe.
The request
vote.
was, you've done it so far, hold the hearing, close the hearing, and postpone decision until February.
Okay.
In other words, adjourn decision.
I would so move. So close the public hearing and adjourn any decision.
Well, you already closed it.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Joe, second. Roll call, please.
Shamil?
Yes.
Davis? Yes. Gill?
Yes.
Penberthy? Yes. Raphael?
Yes.
Okay, item number 3, this is 6000 and 6020 North Bailey Avenue. This is another request to postpone. Do I have a motion?
I'd so move.
Have a second?
Second.
Joe the second. Roll call, please.
Shamil?
Yes.
Davis? Yes. Gill?
Yes.
Penberthy? Yes. Raphael?
Yes.
Item number 4, request to rezone 1.03 acres, R3 to NB, 1635 North French Road. I'm seeing, are there conditions on this one? It says none.
There's one condition based on your conversation at the work session, that any future site plan for development of 1635 North French Road include vehicular access to the adjoining parcel at 1639 through 1641 North French Road.
Did everybody hear the condition?
I'd move to approve with such a condition.
We got a move to approve with the condition. Do I have a second?
Second.
Joe second. Roll call, please.
Shamil?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Gill?
Yes.
Penberthy? Yes. Raphael?
Yes.
Item number 5. This is 46, 54, 60, 68, 74, 84 South Linden Street. Request to amend the comprehensive plan from single-family residential to mixed residential. Do we have conditions?
I don't believe there's any conditions, but I would move to deny the request.
We have a,
Oh, I'm sorry, if I may add, you're right, I'm sorry. As discussed, I don't find that this proposal is consistent with the town of Amherst bicentennial comp plan in the following ways. The amendment promotes rezoning and subsequent multifamily attached development at a density, scale, and character that are inconsistent with the single-family lots that surround the site. The amendment does not enable public street network with McIntyre Road to the east for future development of the single-family homes.
did everybody hear that? Everybody understand? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Joe seconds. Let's have roll call.
Shamil?
No.
Davis? If you're voting yes, you're voting to deny the request. If you're voting no, you're against the request to deny it.
Yes.
Gill?
Yes.
Penberthy? Yes. Raphael?
Yes.
It's 4-1, passes. All right, item number 6, proposed zoning text ordinance, creation of a new mixed-use District Center 10. Town of Amherst was a petitioner. There are no conditions to this. Do we have this is advisory, obviously. Do we have a motion?
I would move part to recommend to the town board all that is proposed with the exception of the creation of the new mixed-use district Center 10. But all the other proposals in the amendment, I'm agreeable to and I think we should recommend. But I am against the Center 10 portion of the recommendation.
Okay. That is everything, obviously, other than the creation of the Center 10.
That's generally the frontage type.
Correct. Correct. And all those minor changes that were highlighted in the proposal to the other districts, just excluding that portion of what's being proposed relative to Center 10.
You don't want to add 10-story buildings.
Correct.
You got it? Okay. We have a motion. Does anyone want a second?
Second.
Harbinger, second. Roll call, please.
Shamil?
No.
Davis?
No.
Gill?
Yes.
Penberthy? Yes. Raphael?
Yes.
It's 3-2 yes in favor of the motion. Is that enough? You need 4? Motion fails them. Okay. That's right.
Passing.
Well, I'll move to approve with the conditions as set forth, including the District Center 10. Does anyone want to second that?
Second.
John seconds. Roll call.
Shamil?
Yes?
Davis?
Yes.
Gill?
No.
Penberthy? No. Raphael?
Yes.
Okay, that's 3-2, and that also fails.
I'm sorry. I was not trying to be difficult on that.
Nothing you can do about it by the time we got to you.
I'll move to adjourn the discussion, or the recommendation until next month.
We have a motion to postpone further discussion to next month.
The vote.
The vote?
The vote.
The vote? Okay, anyone want a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Shamil?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Gill?
Yes.
Penberthy? Yes. Raphael?
Yes.
Okay, that's 5-0. That passes. Item number 7, proposed zoning text amendment, creation of an urban renewal overlay district. Town of Amherst was the petitioner. No conditions to this. Do we have, this is advisory again, do we have a motion?
I'll move to recommend denial of the suggestion from the town board, back to the town board.
We have a motion to deny. Do we have a second?
Second.
Joe seconds. Roll call, please.
Shamil?
No.
Davis?
No.
Gill?
No.
Penberthy? Yes. Raphael?
Yes.
It's 3-2. That doesn't,
I'll move
That's
to
2-3.
adjourn the vote of this matter as well to the February meeting.
I'll second that. Roll call?
Shamil?
Yes?
Davis?
Yes.
Gill?
Yes.
Penberthy? Yes. Raphael?
Yes.
Passes 5-0. That'll go on next month for a vote. Item number 8, request for extension of preliminary plat approval. This is 166 Klein Road. We have a condition.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
The condition is a revision from the previous extension that condition number 4 from the original approval, which was relating to the ownership of the public-private utilities, that be stricken from the resolution because that has been since determined by the town board.
Okay, we've heard the conditions. Everybody understand?
Yes.
Do we have a motion?
I'd move to approve based upon our prior recommendation.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Roll call, please.
Shamil?
Yes?
Davis?
Yes.
Gill?
Yes.
Penberthy? Yes. Raphael?
Yes.
Passes 5-0. Item number 9, Zoning Board of Appeals request for recommendation. This is dealing with 6812, 6814, 6832 Main Street, and 29 Tennyson Terrace. We have conditions on this. Can we discuss?
Yeah, so these are conditions that you would be recommending to the Zoning Board of Appeals at their subsequent meeting. One of them being that a high-impact screen that complies with our landscaping regulations be provided between the proposed development and the property at 45 Tennyson, and that there be no vehicular access from the residentially zoned property at 29 through 37 Tennyson to the property located at 6842 to 6846 Main Street.
Okay, these are the recommendations. Does everybody understand them? Does anybody have any questions or want to discuss them? Hearing no, then do I hear a motion?
I move to recommend denial of the request for the rezone.
We have a motion for denial. Do I have a second?
It's just recommendation.
Use permit.
Oh, sorry about that, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Withdrawing your motion?
I'm not, no. It's the same project.
Okay. All right, well, we have a motion to deny. Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Do we have any other motions?
Motion to approve?
Joe, the motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We got you first, sir. Why don't we go to the new guy here for his first second there? Mr. Davis seconds. Roll call, please.
Shamil?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Gill?
Yes.
Penberthy? No. Raphael?
Yes.
4-1 passes. Finally, item 10, we have the revised 2024 schedule of planning board meetings. Do we need to put anything on the record about the dates, or is it just as it is?
I think we need.
Yeah.
So as I understand it, the Wednesday dates in the summer are not going to work for a couple folks on the board. So I don't think we want to schedule those. I guess, are there any other days of the week that are not good that people know they can't make it, and we'll try to shoot for a different day during those weeks, the third week in June and August, the fourth week in July,
Okay.
to try and avoid the situation with the parking.
The dates that would be different that are proposed would be June 26th, which is a Wednesday, July 24th, which is a Wednesday, August 21st, which is a Wednesday. For the record, all to try to avoid either Old Homes Days or Music on Main, because it's difficult for people to park anywhere around here during those dates. Is there anyone here who wants to discuss this? I know there's some issues with availability.
Thursdays are fine with me.
Are Tuesdays better, or are they?
Yeah, I looked at
Tuesdays are fine with me.
Yeah.
Mondays and Tuesdays are fine with me.
Mondays and Tuesdays are good with you, Joe?
Yeah.
Mondays are better for me in the alternative to a Thursday.
So we're going to bump into the town board on Mondays. We're going to bump into the ZBA on the third Tuesdays. So if Tuesday worked, maybe we could bump to the fourth Tuesday during the summer. That's just off the top of my head. That's maybe one option.
Okay. Well, is there anybody here that would have a conflict with what Dan just mentioned by moving them to various Tuesdays for these 3 months? You good with it?
Does that work?
Okay.
I'm not necessarily available, but I don't want to adjust
Tuesday works
anything.
for me. Most Tuesdays.
Okay. Well, I mean,
Tuesdays
Tuesday, all right?
I'll
Okay.
go for it.
Obviously. Well, then that's, what we'll be voting on then is, for the record, could you list the dates out, the Tuesdays again, Dan?
So just,
Some of the calendar.
the bottom line here is you generally meet on the third week. So it could, the third Tuesday in June and August is the ZBA meeting. So that Tuesday's not available that third week. And then in July, I think the fourth Tuesday probably is available. I don't know if you guys can correct me if not. So July could be the fourth Tuesday. If you want to move to the fourth week, I don't know what it does to our schedule, to be quite honest with it. But we're just looking to schedule a
Would all
date for
three
you.
dates be the fourth Tuesday?
So that's probably the option.
Okay. All right, so what we have here is the difference between what's printed and what we're talking about here. Instead of these Wednesdays, we have the fourth Tuesday of June, July, and August. Do I have a vote to approve?
That work.
Yeah, let's get the exact dates for the record.
Got him, Gary.
June 24, July 22, oh, sorry, June 25, July 23, and August 22nd.
Okay, we have the dates. Do we have a motion again?
Motion.
We have a move to approve. Anybody want a second?
Second.
John seconds. Roll call, please.
Jamil?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Gill?
Yes.
Murphy? Yes. Raphael?
Yes.
Now
Passes
we're gonna
5-0.
run into the, we're gonna get, he still leaves the dab, okay?
Okay, that's it for the votes on the items. Has everybody had a chance to review the November meeting minutes?
I move to approve.
Brittany has moved to approve. Do we have a second? Second. Take a vote. Roll call.
Jamil?
Yes.
Davis?
Stay.
Gill?
Yes.
Murphy? Yes. Raphael?
Yes.
4 yeses, 1 abstention passes. And do I hear a
move
motion to end it?
To end.
Second?
Joe seconds it. Roll call.
Jamil?
Yes.
Davis? Yes. Gill?
Yes.
Murphy? Yes. Raphael?
Yes.
That's it. Thank you very much.
That's what we do.